Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. I am a certified Zentangle teacher. Welcome to episode 10 of my Coastal Calm series. In these videos, we are making beautiful little pieces of art using the Zentangle method of drawing, but focusing on tangles and patterns that have a beach or an ocean vibe to them. So today I've got my little practice sketchbook. I have a micron pen, a graphite pencil, and my blending tool. I'm using a Q-tip. And then today's tile is larger than what we have been working on. So we've been doing 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch little squares of watercolor. And mostly we're doing like our mono tangles on those and a couple of mini compilations. And then this is the 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch standard tile from Zentangle.com. These are very affordable. They are nice thick paper. I recommend you getting a whole bunch of them to work on. But if you have my kit, you should have about 4 of these. And at the end of each week, we are making like a little compilation and we are putting it in these little shadow boxes that we created. So that was last week's large tile, and now we're making a new one. Okay, so 3.5 inches is what we are working on today. All right, I'm going to begin in my sketch week because I do want to show you a new tangle today. All right, open up to the next clean page. This is episode 10. And today I want to show you one called Sand Swirl. And that is by Carrie, I think it's K-A Hune. Sand Swirl by Carrie Hune. And I do have a 15 minutes of Zen video where we do it on a small tile and we just fill the whole thing with sand swirl, and it's just such a fun, relaxing tangle. I think you're going to love it. Okay, this one begins with a curve and a little circle at the end. And then we're going to go just below where that one ended, and we're gonna aura it around and down. We're gonna do that again. So we're gonna go in just a little bit, or I guess out a little bit. Around and down. So these are auras that come out of that first little line that we created. I'm going to do one more. Like that. That is Sand Swirl. Okay, let's do another one, but this time let's do it like near it, but I'm going to do it kind of upside down. So we're doing a curve and a little loop at the bottom. And now I'm going to start on that inside curve. Okay, we always start on the inside curve. And we're going to go around and aura it. And I put it close on purpose so that I could bump into it, lift my pen, come out the other side. Aura, lift my pen, and come out. You can do as many of these auras as you would like. Now if we put another one in, maybe right here, they could really go anywhere. We're going to start filling in this space with this cool shape that can bump into each other. It can come out from behind other ones. Look how great that is. Okay, we're going to use that today. I'm going to set that aside and grab my 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch tile. And I'm going to start with my pencil. And I'm going to put a dot in each of the 4 corners. And then I'm going to connect those dots lightly with my pencil. Don't worry about your lines. They don't have to be straight. It still works. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just switch to my pen. If you want to work in pencil a little bit longer so you can see how it lays out, that's fine. But I'm just going to go right to pen. So now what I'm going to envision is doing about 1/3 of this bottom part with sand swirl. And it's going to look like swirling sand, but I also think it can look like moving waves. Okay. Now, if I'm thinking about filling up this bottom third, I don't want my curve and circle to be tiny because I'm going to have all these little tiny auras. Then I'm going to have to do another and another and another, and it's just going to take me so long to fill it up. Okay, so I got to think a little bit bigger than that. So I'm going to go like that. How long is that? That's about that much of my pen. And I'm not going to go over this edge, so I'm going to aura this, and then when I come back down, it's going to stop right at the edge of that paper, right at the edge of that line. I do it again. And again. And I'm going to go once more, or one more time. I'm already excited about shading this one. It's so much fun. Okay, I have that first one in. So now again, I'm thinking about this bottom third here. So I can put another one up here if I want, or I can try to fill in some space down here. I think that's what I'm gonna do, is fill in like this. I don't always have an exact plan. I just have an idea of what I want to include, and then we just sort of see how it evolves. Okay, start on that inner curve. Go around that circle. And I really want mine to bump into this one because we're trying to fill space. That looks pretty good. And don't worry about these empty spaces right now. We'll take care of those. Okay, so I don't want my, my end to be like left alone out here, because then my auras are all just going to end up out there. I always want to start at an edge or off of another swirl. Does that make sense? Let me grab my little practice book. Okay. See how these all have these like little ends sticking out. To avoid that, you're always going to go off of another tangle or off of an edge, and then your little lines have an ending instead of just hanging out like that. Okay, so this next one I'm going to do it right here. And I'm thinking about this bottom third, but I'm okay going up into it a little bit as well. It doesn't just have to be swirl, swirl, swirl all lined up. We want this to kind of look like a roaring ocean. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to start this little curve, give that aura, and come around. This is one of the first tangles I ever recorded for my 15 minutes of Zen videos because I just found it so relaxing. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to do another one down here. I'm going to come off of the edge there. And I could have come this way, and that would have worked really well really well as well. Having fun with my words tonight. But you could have come off of there and swooped over and filled it in that way. I just chose to come up from the bottom and do my auras that way. Don't be afraid to just take your time. Enjoy making those repeated lines. And enjoy how they bump into each other. I think that looks great. I'm going to do one more over here in this corner. Don't worry about those little spaces that are left over right now. And when I get to this edge, I'm just going to jump and come around. So I started out in 1/3, then I kind of went to 1/2, and then I went even higher, but that's okay. It will still work. Like I said, these just kind of evolve before our eyes. Okay, once you get your basic sand swirls in there, we need to fill in the rest of this space. We have a couple of options. The option that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a whole bunch of auras and just fill it up with lines. But if you want to put in a little sea urchin or maybe a little bubble with a little reflection on it, that would look super cute. But I'm just going to fill mine. So I'm going to start with this little space here. And I'm going to I like to pick the tangle that's the furthest back, which would be this one. And then I'm going to aura it. See how I did that? Right here, I can pick either one, so I'm just going to do this. Right here, I'm going to aura this curvy part. Down here, I'm going to aura the curvy part. Over here, which one should I do? I think I'm going to do this curve. And it doesn't have to come up and around. It can just end down here. And now this whole bottom section is filled in. And I love a filled in paper. That feels very Zentangle-y to me. So take a moment to fill yours in. And then I'm going to take a moment to trace my frame, because sometimes I like when my tangles go outside of the frame. But for this one today, I'm just going to leave them all inside of it, so I don't need to leave it in pencil. Okay, have you ever been walking on the beach and you're walking along and you're looking down and the waves, you know, the tide is kind of coming in, the surf is coming in, and then it recedes, and sometimes you see a beautiful shell and it's coming towards you, and then all of a sudden it tumbles away. And that's such like an exciting moment of, oh, look at that, and then it kind of gets swept back out to sea. That's sort of what I envision for this. I envision these like seashells sort of tumbling in the waves. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use some of my urchin and sea urchin. I'm going to do one of my conch shells. And I can even do some clams or clam bake. Okay, those are the ones that we had done this week. And I love beach buck, so, you know, if I've got room, I could put a beach buck in there. Oop, just changed my light. Hold on. We all get to sit here while I figure it out. All right, I think that's it. Could even do one of our Whirls seashells in there. Okay, so lots of options. I'm gonna take my pencil and I'm going to figure out where I want one of these great big conch shells. It's so nice and big that I want to do that one first, and I want it right down here in this area. So I'm gonna go like that maybe. Just giving myself a general area and kind of how big I want it. I want it to take up a lot of space, but leave a little bit at the top. All right, and if you remember how to make that one, it starts very similar to sand swirl. So it's gonna come up and then give a curl in. And I'm just gonna let it come off of one sand swirl and bump into another one. And then we do that little cap where we come from here and we bump over to that side, which also looks like a wave. And then we continue that one around and tuck it in. Remember that? I don't have a lot of room to put more of these C shapes, but I'm just gonna do my best. I'm gonna put one there, and there, and there. I'm gonna ink in these little triangular spots that are left. And I forgot, this one actually kind of came down and curved, didn't it? And gave that little bit of a little dark area, like a little upside down raindrop. Whatever space you have down here, you can leave for a moment. And now we're gonna do those little caps that we put on the top. That's up to you, how you want to make those. It can bump into the side if you want. However it fits in your space. And then we did every other row of these. We started with a circle and then we did those little C shapes or backward C shapes depending on what side you start from. And then I like to just put a little bit of ink in those tiny little white areas. Skip a line and go up and do another. And then in these empty spots, I'm going to put a couple little flicks of my pen on each side to sort of give that rounding effect. And we'll put in some shading, of course, too. Okay, that was our first little shell that's tumbling in the waves, tumbling in the surf. And now I'm going to do urchin. Which one was which? Urchin. I'm going to do that one, the larger one. So I'm going to do a circle, but I don't want it to just sit on top. I want it to kind of tuck in behind. So it's a partial circle. And I'm going to make that swirly top part be over here. And then I'm going to turn my tile to kind of give my view of that being the top so I know where to put in my curves. And then change the direction of my curves. And add in those little circles on the edges, giving it that little bit of a bumpy appearance. And I like putting a couple of dots in every other one just to give that bumpy texture. Could even go a little more prominent. All right, once you have those two done, we're going to put one in over here. So I'm going to do the clam bake, just these little ones like this. Oh, I don't know, maybe I should do clams. I think I'm going to do clam bake. I don't know. But it would be beautiful to put beach buck over there if you wanted to do that instead from the previous week. Okay, well, let's put, I'm gonna do this one, the one that has the two with the little like bubbles. So I said before it's a clam with like little pearls, and somebody reminded me that oysters have pearls, not clams. So yeah, it still looks oceany, but it's not quite what I was saying. All right, so I'm gonna do that. So I'm going to put that like first curve here and one here. And then I can do this part and this part. And because it's just kind of sticking up, now I have to sort of imagine where those three lines are coming. So 1, 2, 3, and then over here is going to be a little bit trickier. You might only see 2 of them. And then we put in the tiniest little circular orb that we can. And ink in those little spaces in between. I'm going to put in one more. Down here you can't really see them well, so that's okay. We tucked in a little bit. I'm going to give these a reflection. All right, I'm going to add another one of those little clam bake ones over here just because I have room. I like that. I'm going to add a couple of dots to this one as well, just because I like the texture in all of these little shells. Okay, I'm going to add a few bubbles, and the first thing I'm thinking of is right here in this space. I can just aura if I want, or I could put in a little circle with a reflection, and then I can aura that. And now that space is filled in. And if you've got any other little tiny spaces, you can always darken them. I'm going to put a tiny bubble up here because I think I can fit one. And then I'll aura that to fill in the space. I'm going to put one over here as well. See how I just snuck that in there? And then I can put an aura around it. And then I can continue to aura it to fill in all of that space beside the shell. Can put one up here. Add an aura. And I think that's all I'm going to do for that part. If you want to do more, you can do more. You can always just put in a little one, even if you don't aura it. They look cute. That one needs an aura. It's too tiny. Okay. So now I'm going to do more sand swirl. Now, if you wanted, you could just do like little dots and have that be the sandy beach. This is the surf pushing the shells up, but I want to fill the whole tile today. And I love that these are just kind of snuggled in with all of the sand swirl. So I'm going to add sand swirl up here. And I want it to be the same size as down here. I don't want to do a bunch of tiny ones. I'm not going to be afraid to go big. So I'm going to begin right here from this corner and put one right there. And now I start on that curve and I go around. And I do it again. And remember, you're filling in space, so don't be afraid to go big. Don't be afraid to add a lot of auras. And look at how quickly I have filled in that corner. I know nothing's going to go up here, so I'm just going to continue to aura that. Let's do another one. Maybe this time I'll come this way. Yours is going to start to look different than mine. That's okay. I can go back and fill in these spaces as we go, or you can do it afterwards. So I think I'm going to wait on that one. I'm going to put one here. Always start on that inside curve and come around the circle. I've got room for one more. I'm going to go back into here and just add some auras. Pick anything you want to aura. It doesn't matter. And fill in those little spaces. I really like how that turned out, and I'm excited to do some shading. Right, I'm going to put my initials on here. You might need an extra minute to finish your sand swirl, so go ahead and pause if you'd like. But I'm going to start shading so we can hopefully get this done in under 40 minutes. It's kind of a long video today. Okay, I'm going to take my pencil. I'm going to start with sand swirl. So I'm going to go on that inside curve that we first made. So I'm going to give that some graphite, and I'm going to come right around that inside and follow that loop. See how I did that? I'm going to do that to every single one. Find that first inside curve, follow it into the loop. Inside curve and follow it. It's fun to take a photo before and after shading just to see how magical it is and how much it changes with a little bit of graphite. I'm going to do these ones up here as well. Find the inside curve. Take your blending tool, whether you have a tortillon like this or you have a Q-tip, and you're just going to soften that. You're kind of pushing it into the paper, but also pulling it away a little bit. Look at that pretty little shadow it makes. Look at the depth those are starting to get. After you get those done, we're gonna go on the outside edge, but only until, let's see, so we're gonna do this one. We're gonna do the outside edge here because it goes over all of this, over that, over here, and then I'm gonna stop. And then this one, I'm gonna do the outside edge. It goes over this, over this. It kind of goes over all of these, so I'm gonna go all the way around it. This one up here, the outside edge. Now this one's unique because we've already got a lot of graphite where things have gone over it. So I'm gonna do the outside edge over here, but then it's just gonna stop. Same with this one, outside edge. And then it stops because this already has things going over it. When I go up here, I'm going to find the outside edge of each one. Outside edge. Some of them you don't see much. Take your blending tool, we're going to soften that and push it up and away from the edge that we put the graphite on. And I'm not spending very much time on each one, I'm just giving it a little bit of a push. Look at the depth of that. Same thing down here, gotta find those little edges. Not very much up there. I'm a much faster shader probably than most of you. I do it so quick. I'm not very particular about it. I probably should be. Okay, I'm going to focus on the 3 shells, and I'm going to do the outside of each shell first, and that's going to just sort of separate it from the background and pop it up a little bit. Bring it forward on our page. Go around my little tiny circles. That's sort of tricky, but and go around the clam. And that clam. And then all of these should have the graphite already where the waves are going over it. I'll take my little Q-tip and I'm going to soften that and push it away from the shells, away from that line. I'm going to put a little bit at the top and the bottom of those kind of pearly things on the conch shell. And I'm going to put it on the inside or outside. What did we do? The outside of the spiral for urchin. And the clam one and this clam one I think look pretty good. I'm just going to leave those. So I'm going to put a little bit here, a little bit there. And then my blending tool or my Q-tips already got a lot of graphite, and I'm going to do the side, both sides of that conch shell. Give that some dimension. And look at how all four of those little shells kind of pop out. If you want, you can go around your bubbles. You don't have to. There's not very many of them, and they're kind of squished in there, so. But I'm going to take my pencil, and the last thing I'm going to do is add graphite on the inside edge of this frame. That's going to make all of these little pieces look like they are kind of disappearing behind it or under it. I want my graphite to go right up nice and tight against that line. I'm going to go around my whole edge and just soften that, pushing it towards the center slightly. Look how quickly I do that. I'm using the side of my Q-tip right now. And there we go. There's our little compilation piece for what day are we on? Day 10? Episode 10. That is really cool looking. I hope you love it. And if I want to get my shadow box out, I can lift my little magnet and set it in there. I think that looks pretty great. All right, thank you so much for joining me. If you would like to watch this episode ad and commercial free, you can join my Patreon. It is $5 a month, and I have it linked below. I believe it's just Patreon/Minutes of Zen. Again, it's $5 a month, but you get all of these videos commercial free. So those of you that are already on it, thank you for supporting me, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.